Hello, and welcome to Sobercast, where we provide AA speaker meetings and workshops in podcast format. We're an ad-free podcast, and if you enjoy listening, please help us be self-supporting by visiting Sobercast.com, look for the donate link, and drop $1 or $2 into our virtual basket. We hope you enjoy the podcast. Have a great day.
Hi, I'm Sonia. I'm an alcoholic.
Sonia.
My sobriety date is April 23rd, 2012. I just celebrated 6 years of sobriety. And just recently moved here from Philadelphia about 3.5 weeks ago. And man, if I was unsure of my character defects, like moving across the country has definitely thrown fertilizer on the whole problem. When I was growing up, I never thought that, when I was drinking, I'll say, I never thought I had a problem with alcohol. I thought if you had my life story, you would drink like me too. I was abandoned as a baby, and I was left as an infant on the steps of an orphanage, and I was taken in the orphanage in Jordan, and I ended up staying there for about 6 to 7 months before I was adopted and brought to the U.S. And for a long time, I thought that's why I was an alcoholic. I was abandoned, poor me. And I didn't look at the fact that I had been blessed with an opportunity to come here and have a lot in my life, but I didn't see it that way. And I grew up with a wonderful, wonderful mother and a horribly, verbally and mentally abusive father who suffers from mental illness. And for a long time, I thought that's why I was an alcoholic. Like I said, if you had my story, if you went through my struggle, so to speak, you would drink too. And so I drank at people. And as soon as I picked up a drink, I found that all of the anxiety and all of the fear and a lot of kind of like what we talk about in AA, it kind of melted away, and I could kind of be the person that, I always wanted to be, right? Like, I knew I was worthy of love. I knew that I was likable. I knew that I liked being around people, making friends. And, I just felt, like alcohol allowed me to do that. And it really wasn't bad at first, except every single time I drank to black out. And, it was always for effect. I was able to kind of disguise my drinking in various hobbies that I didn't really give a shit about. And, just kind of would find any excuse to drink. And it only took me, I would say, about 6 years to hit the ground pretty hard. I picked up a drink when I was 16, which when I came to AA, I realized that I was really late. But immediately got into trouble, just destroyed stuff. I turned into like a kleptomaniac and would steal anything. Just was constantly kind of reaching outside of myself to feel better. And, now I know it's filling the void, right? But I didn't know that at the time. I just knew that, the constant anxiety and pressure, fear, worry, self-pity, selfishness, all of that melted away. And alcohol allowed me to be in the moment, right? And those are some of the things that I've gained through practicing these principles and working a program in AA. And, I didn't know that at the time. And so I hit a bottom, so to speak. I love that it talks about, what does the bottom look like for someone that gets sober at 22, that maybe doesn't have a house and a car and a family to lose. But I lost my sense of who I was. I could no longer be accountable to my friends and family. I had lied to people for years. I got kicked out of college, twice, for doing things that that I just shouldn't have been doing. And there were other things that were part of my story. I picked up amphetamines during that time. I picked up Adderall during that time, which for me was better than any pain reliever, because it allowed me to be productive and it allowed me to get shit done. And therefore convinced myself that I wasn't an alcoholic because I was leading a functional life. And I was hospitalized multiple times. I don't really want to spend too much time focusing on how it was. Something that I realized in AA was just that, we all are kind of the same. And I was told to look for the similarities and not so much for the differences. And I was blessed with the willingness to jump into this program. I am a first timer. I say that because if you're new and this is your first time, it doesn't have to, it can stay that way. You can come here and you can stay. And I needed people to tell me that. I jumped immediately into the steps, and I was kind of blessed by a sponsor that didn't, blow smoke up my ass. She told me exactly how my character defects affected my behavior, and that I was 100% probable that I was going to act out on these defects again in sobriety, whether I picked up a drink or not, unless I asked God to remove them. I hear a lot about, working on your character defects. Well, I'm not capable of doing that. If I could, I would, and I can't. I need to ask something bigger than me every day to help guide me, to help redirect my thoughts and my actions. And I stayed in the middle of this program for the past 6 years, and just have been just like on fire, right? And since moving here, it's been a challenge because I don't have that community, but I'm trying to just kind of treat myself like a newcomer again, do a 90 and 90, meet women, get into service. And service is really kind of what changed my whole view of sobriety. And a lot of it, I thought it was just sponsorship. Well, I sponsored a lot of girls and they didn't call, or we only got through the 4th step, or, and I thought that was because of me. Like, what am I not doing, right? And I have taken some women all the way through the steps, but it's not my job to keep them sober. It's my job to say yes. It's my job to do the work with them, to open the book, because every time I'm reading it with them, I'm also reading it, right? So a lot has happened in sobriety. I was able to go back to school, the same school that I was kicked out of twice. Like, I was able to travel the world and get my own place and do all of these external things that I always wanted, and none of them made me happy. None of them filled that void unless I'm seeking some kind of higher power. I was raised in a really atheist, I would say even anti-religious household where it was looked down upon to believe in God. And, finally I got to the point where it just needed to not be me, as long as it wasn't me. So my God, I just called it not me. So I would just say, hi, not me. Help me. Thank you. And that was my prayer for a long time, and it still is at times. And, the steps are something that I'm still learning how to practice in a day-to-day basis based off of what is kind of happening in my life. And chances are, if there's something that I don't want to do, then I need to be doing it. And if it's something that I really want to do, I probably, should probably run it by another person. And I'm lucky that I'm at a point now where it's automatic. And they talk about laying the foundation upon which a happy and purposeful life can be built. And if you're new, that can absolutely happen. There are things that are autopilot for me now. But I still struggle, if there's anything I've learned just having people fall off, having people die, having people go back out, is that, you never got this. We never got this. And I'll speak for myself. I don't have this. And it's easy for me to get cocky. And when I get something, being look at what I did. But I didn't do it. I placed myself in a position where the opportunity came because I relied on a higher power or a God or whatever. For me, God is love, right? So I believe in love. I believe in the rooms. I believe in you people that are the only accepting, loving people that I've had consistently in my life, since I got sober. And, no matter how tough this move has been, we have to keep trudging, and I'm just going to kind of keep showing up, and I don't want to take too much more of your time, but just the fact that I have the opportunity to have a career and make friends and be there for people is definitely a life beyond my wildest dreams, because I woke up every day just wanting to die, and waking up and not wanting to die is beyond my wildest dreams. And I think that's all I have. Thanks.
I'm Ezra. I'm an alcoholic.
Ezra.
Thanks for kicking us off. That was really beautiful. Thanks so much. And thanks for the opportunity to share with you guys tonight. I didn't really want to be here an hour or two ago. Had a kind of a bizarre day. I'm in the middle of a move transition also. And I drove here from a house that I bought. Like, I'm still surprised that I could say that I bought a house in Sacramento, like on June 1st. And it was kind of a little unexpected. But it's awesome, and I love it. It's beautiful. There's trees in the backyard, and there's like a white picket fence. It's super weird. And like, there's my car, and it's like, I don't have to like, I parked on the street in Berkeley for like 9 years, you know? And now like, I have my own, like, it's like a driveway. Very bizarre.
What's that?
It's really weird. And so I came here, I made a bunch of phone calls to people, and then I like went to my bank, and I went to the Berkeley Bowl, and I got some stuff for the house, and then I went to a meeting, and then my cousin is here from New York, and I hung out with him, and it was like really draining, but kind of cool because he lives in Brooklyn, and I don't really know him that well, but it was cool to hang out with him, and I'm just in this really big transition, and I think it's cool that, you know, Sonia and I are both like, and she's like moving here, and I'm like moving kind of that way. So it's like, I need to be of service to you guys. Like, that's why I'm here. That's why Neil asked me a few weeks ago, because like, my life has just been in this major turmoil, and like, I'm like, thank you so much, because I need to be here right now. I got cleaners coming to my apartment tomorrow. I got to let them in so they can clean my place. I got to surrender my keys. So like, I'm kind of freaking out because I've been in the Bay since 2007, and like, Sacramento is super cool, but like, it does not have the cachet of the Bay Area. So, anyway, so just so you guys know where I'm at right now. So I'm really grateful to be here. You know, welcome to anybody who's new, who like feels like they might be new or whatever. My sobriety date is September 29th, 2012. So I have about 5.5 years of sobriety. I've never relapsed since I came into the program. We're like, we believe in God, but we're still superstitious about, you know, sobriety dates here. So that's kind of funny. Let's see. I grew up down in, it's the Pacific Palisades Malibu border. So it's technically Malibu, but it's basically the Pacific Palisades, basically where the Getty Villa is. And so it's not on the beach. It's very close to the beach. My parents told me I was upper middle class. We're not rich, Ezra. We're upper middle class in the 80s, right? Meanwhile, like, real estate was like slowly like ticking the world up, and they're like, nope, we're sticking to upper middle class here. You know, we're not, you know, don't think you're rich, kid, because you're not rich. I'm part of a Jewish family. I'm a third generation Holocaust survivor. So what that means is that my grandfather and my grandma both survived the Holocaust. And so that's pretty interesting. It comes up later. I grew up like a pretty fearful child. Like, the thing that really freaked me out was infinity. Like, the fact that like time just kind of like goes on infinitely, and that like my life is finite, but there's this infinite thing. And it freaked me out. It was like 3 or 4. And I was like in bed, like, you know, having panic, anxiety attacks about that. So I think it might be because my grandfather died while I was in the house with my grandma, and she had a panic attack, and my sister was there. My parents were in Hawaii. It was pandemonium and screaming. Anyway, so yeah, 80s, you know, in Malibu was not that bad. It was pretty cool. I got to model for Oshkosh Bagosh once. That was fun. Basically, like, I learned some, like, unhealthy skills, you know, like keeping my feelings kind of locked inside. In fact, like, a good friend of my mom, she said, like, we would see you, like, you would get mad and you would just, like, compress, like, everything in and down, you know? And I would, like, turn red, you know, like, I have rosacea, like, I have reddening, you know, like, fire inside. I have 5 Leos in my chart, so if you wonder why I like talking in front of people, I'm like a super prideful, vain, you know, arrogant. I like to perform. I'm a guitarist. Yeah, so I hid things from my parents. Like, they didn't. I mean, I tried to talk to my mom about my panic attacks at night, and she was like, "Just go to bed, dude. I don't know." She was raised by 2 Holocaust survivors who didn't exactly know how to give her a whole lot of love, right? Because they were like, seriously, like, talk about PTSD. I mean, geez Louise. These were not camp survivors. I'll get into a little bit of that in a bit. But basically, okay, my sponsor said to talk about, a few ideas that I learned about myself. Number one is I'm not good and I'm fucked, right? Those are 2 ideas that I learned. And I learned those because my mom was trying to quit cigarettes. I was born addicted to cigarettes. My mom smoked cigarettes in the 70s when I was born. And she tried to quit smoking. And when she did, she became like a vengeful, angry, rageful person. And so she raged really hard at me and my sister. And I got this idea like, oh, like I'm the problem. Like I'm trapped. I'm fucked. Like, very negative ideas about life, which are not true. But that's what I learned. So I had a bar mitzvah. I could not wait to get done with that thing so I could put sunnin in my hair. And, I went to Mexico with all the sunnin, and I was with my friend Eric Gonzalez, and for some reason, my vacation post bar mitzvah was like in Mexico with Eric's older brother, who is like a heroin addict, recovering, like in rural Mexico, and he takes us to a nightclub. And so my first drink was bottle service in a Mexican nightclub. And, it was like, fucking go, like whiskey or tequila or whatever. And like we were on the dance floor, and it was like, I think we ended up in the paper, because we were in the middle of nowhere, like white kids, partying up. I mean, it could have been in my head, but I swear we ended up in the paper. So, I mean, very soon after that, I got into marijuana, very good anti-anxiety. I'm a very anxious person. Why did I drink and do drugs? Because I can't deal with feelings, right? Feelings are impossible, Like, why would I want to feel my feelings when I could, compress them and shut them down? And then, so I drank to, like, not feel, right? It's pretty simple, It's like a perfect recipe for alcoholism and drug addiction, in my opinion. You take family trauma, you mix it with, like, not feeling your feelings and, like, learning how to process healthfully, and then, and then you get drugs, right? And alcohol, So I also, was very much being like drawn into like rebellious things. Like I like things that aren't good for me. What the fuck is this thing? I like things that aren't good for me, right? Like I like rock and roll music. Like there's nothing inherently wrong with it, but when you mix it with like cigarettes and booze and drugs and, motorcycles, all these things, it can become dangerous. And I am attracted to dangerous things. Yeah, so that's basically what I was just a typical kind of punky, quiet, reserved, typical angry teenager kid. I went to Humboldt State for college. I did some drugs. I dropped out. I went to California Culinary Academy in San Francisco, 97, San Francisco. Learned how to really drink in San Francisco and in the restaurant industry. Who knew? Like, great way to learn how to really drink and do drugs. There were some periods in my, alcoholism where it was kind of dormant, and I became kind of a binge guy where I would like be kind of quiet, and then there would be times when I would drink and I would just be like throwing up because I could not like, I do everything to extreme. Like that's alcoholism, like everything to extreme. So I'm gonna get sober here. So, life happens, twists and turns, periods of like aggressive drinking and partying, and periods of relative calm where I'm a productive member of society. And then eventually, like, I ended up in Berkeley in 2009 in a studio apartment with an alcoholic neighbor upstairs who I've seen at this meeting. And paper thin walls, second story apartment, California and Addison. Decent place, rent controlled. And I started, a friend of mine, had asked me if I would help him sell insurance, right? Because he knew I had the license from some job, and I said, I'm stoned on Xanax at home, I'm not doing anything. So I'm just on unemployment. I might as well start working for you. Like, it's 2009, financial crisis is in full swing. 2010 at this time, maybe 11, who knows? My favorite band, Fish, had come back. They were now on tour, and I had been slowly like upticking my drug consumption, and I started like mixing different things. Like I would take ecstasy, and then I would mix a little acid in at the same time, and wash it down with vodka or whatever. And so, I was going to leave this friend of mine's business, and I was going to start my own business selling insurance. And he had kind of groomed me and taught me. And I was like, oh, like I could sell insurance. I can do this, right? So I don't need this guy anymore. And I was going to leave his company, and it was very scary, right? Because I had to get a lawyer, and I had to I was going to grow up and be an adult, have my own business, be a man in the world. Because clearly I couldn't work for anybody else. So I was very anxious, and the way I dealt with that anxiety was to take a bunch of drugs. And my band was on tour, and I went to San Francisco. I planned it all out. I had all my different, fancy colored jackets. And my friends, we had a hotel in the Tenderloin, even though I lived in Berkeley. And, I started off the week all bad. This is what happened. This is how I ended up getting sober. But I had to have this really nasty bottom. And I ended up taking, over a week's time, I took mushrooms, I took acid, I took ecstasy, I put a little cocaine in my beverage because I don't like how it feels in my nose, and I have ADD anyway, so it doesn't do anything. I drank, and I took OxyContin for my first time, right? And this was all in about a 4 or 5 day span. And that night, after Saturday night, after the big show, I bought a bottle of Bullet whiskey, put it in my pocket, and then we hit the town, right? That show was the last time I ever did drugs. And I had this thing, I was watching these guys play, and I was I'm really into the bass player of this band because he's Jewish like me, and I started thinking about sacred geometry and math. I was tripping so hard. I couldn't find my friends. I was lost and grinding my teeth. It was so uncomfortable. And I realized that I got to stop doing drugs, and I got to stop partying. I'm a mess, I'm having a terrible time. It's supposed to be a fun weekend with my friends. They're somewhere lost in the crowd. And then I thought about music. This is my true love, and I'm having the worst time. I love music more than anything. I want to play music. I want to be a musician. I want to sell fucking insurance. I'm a musician, And then I realized, my grandfather, he survived the Holocaust playing the trumpet for the Polish-Russian army in the band because it took him off the front lines. Music saved my life, right? I'm and my family survived the Holocaust. My mom's basically Anne Frank if she hadn't gotten killed. She's a few years younger than Anne Frank would have been. It's crazy. So, I realized, I gotta stop, But before I stop, I gotta, one for the road, right? And that's where the Bullet whiskey came into my pocket, and I went out, and, I went to a club, and it was just pandemonium. Some guy claimed I, fingered his asshole, and on the dance floor, he took a swing at me. There was the coke with the, I was just insane with the Transylvanian transvestite. My friend was trying to hook up with her, but it was really a guy, and I thought, anyway, I ended up getting kicked out of we got out of the cab in North Beach, and I slammed the door because I was tired and drunk, and cab driver got out and was kicking me, and I ended up picketing with the Irish Hotel Workers Union on my way home. I was buying jewelry off of crackheads. It was totally insane, And the next day I did the Oxy, and then the next day I couldn't sleep, right? So I took Ambien, and then I started sleepwalking to go back in time. 48 hours ago, where the party was still going on, and, I walked out of the house, and I'm like, you know what, I'm not coming back tonight if I walk out that door, because, I'm trying to go to San Francisco on the bus, First I gotta go to Oakland, then I gotta get the late bus to San Francisco, I was trying to kill myself, I don't really want to die, but I didn't really want to live, That's the truth. I was looking for an accident, you know, the way I was behaving. Because I don't want to grow up and be a man. So that's my truth, you know. I'm talking about suicide because I think that a lot of suicidal deaths are alcoholism. You know, Anthony Bourdain, whatever. So it was dark, man. That was some dark shit, you know. And it was a little while later, you know, that I realized that, like, I think my higher power came to me, you know, on that dance floor in San Francisco at the Bill Graham Civic. And it was like, dude, you're fucking way off track. You got to get it together, you know? And I think even in that moment, I had this thing, like, about God, you know, like, that maybe, like, I was just wrong about everything. Like, maybe I had this idea when I was thinking about infinity as a kid that there's, like, no higher power, there's no God, right? We're just all alone in this big empty space for this short period of time, and then we go into infinity as nothing. And it was so scary. I think my higher power came into me that night at 35 or 36 years old. You know, a few weeks later, my best friend, who had, you know, like 5 or 10 years at the time, 5 years, he said, you know, Ez, like, you've lost a lot, you know, like, maybe you want to give AA a try, you know. And so I had given myself drug-induced mania from all that shit that I took. And so my behavior led me to get kicked out of a band. I got kicked out of BNI, which is a very prestigious business networking organization for self-employed solo entrepreneurs. My sister wouldn't talk to me. My parents were totally freaked out. My friends were walking away. One of my biggest clients fired me. I was humiliated, you know. I was totally demoralized, and I was just, like, completely ready to, like, try something different. And so, you know, as a newcomer in AA, you know, I just was, like, fully ready to just listen to whatever anybody had to say, which was awesome, right? Because I was like, what if I just don't know shit, you know? What if everything I know is, like, totally wrong, right? I've been totally humbled. Like, I thought I could get away with it. I legitimately thought that I could take ecstasy on the weekends and show up at work on Monday. And that I could do that. And it was okay. And I could have a double life. And turns out it's not okay, right? Because those people were depending on me. They needed me to have my head clear to sell insurance. Oops. So, you know, what worked in early sobriety, right? I mean, I got a sponsor, right? I did the steps, you know. We only worked for a few months. I got a second sponsor. He took me through all the steps. That worked, right? Going to coffee with people at Rockridge Fellowship afterwards, that worked. Finding a home group, that really, really worked. Having a home group that I went to every week where people could see me, and it was the men's home group, not a women's home group. Not a mixed one. Speaker tapes on YouTube, right? I learned a lot because my insurance business was fledgling. I had to drive Uber. This was in 2012. And I had lots of time to just listen to speaker tapes. That really helped. One of them said you have to really identify as an alcoholic in order to get this thing. You have to, like, identify, like, not just, like, going to the meeting at the Berkeley Fellowship, you know, where it used to be, and being like, well, you guys are, you know, alcoholics, and I'll go to your meeting, but I'm not going to hang out with you, right? That's not identification. That's not like I am one of whatever we are, right? It took me a while to surrender my stubborn, you know, will that, like, I'm just an alcoholic. I'm just a drug addict. I'm not special. What didn't work was going to a ton of different meetings all the time, like, so nobody could get to know me, right? Because I thought I was better than everybody because my ego is profound and it will probably kill me if I let it. The recovery program didn't really, I mean, I want to talk about 2013, right? Because I borrowed money from my dad for the last time in 2012, like around November, because he had helped me give me some money just to get my company started, and I probably partied a fair amount of that off. And so I had a little bit of money coming in from this insurance thing, like $1,000 a month, basically. My rent was like $850 or something. And, you know, somehow 2013, like, I look back at that year and I'm like, how the fuck did I not have to borrow money in 2013? Like, how is that possible? Because, like, I was driving for Uber and I was selling insurance and, like, how did I connect the dots? And I know it wasn't a great year because, like, I was unfuckable. Like, no decent woman would consider sleeping with me. And God bless them, I wasn't really trying, you know. Like, you know, I was nervous. I was sweaty. I was sad and lonely. I didn't have any friends at all. Like, you know, I was just starting over from scratch, like everything. And, you know, but I was working this program like hard, you know. I did all the steps to the best of my ability imperfectly. And somehow, like, God took care of me through that year. You know, it was a shit year. But, like, I developed my conscious contact with the power greater than myself during that year. Like, that's what happened, right? I somehow learned about step 2, right? I went from being totally powerless over drugs and alcohol to trusting and believing that, like, if I did what everybody said, and, you know, certain people were like, you have potential. Like, I see that there's something in you that you can recover from this alcoholism shit and still have a good life, right? On a daily basis. And I trusted them and I believed in them. And, you know, people said things like, you know what, Ezra, you don't have to relapse. It's harder if you relapse. Just stay. And I'm like, okay, I'll just stay. Like, I don't know shit, obviously, you know, because I just blew up like a great opportunity to have like my own business. And I just tried to collapse it at my first opportunity. So, shit, that year was amazing. And then, you know, 2014, you know, we got the Affordable Care Act and my business just went through the roof, right? Because I practiced these principles in all my affairs. And I tried to give to human beings that were asking me for help imperfectly to the best of my ability, like without expecting anything in return, like to give them information that they needed to make a decent healthcare decision. And I ended up like making some money and I was okay, right? And I made friends in the program with the San Francisco Wharf Rats, which are these groups of deadheads, you know, who dance sober, right? And so I found like this amazing group of people who are still some of my best friends to this day. And like, I've been to something like 25 or 30 fish shows sober now, right? And when I go there, my whole intention is not to like wear the coolest jacket and have my, you know, be the one who's giving drugs to my friends, to be the one who's like making sure that they have a slightly better time than me, right? I want my friends to have a better time dancing than I do, right? And because of that, I went to 14 shows in 1 year. It was amazing, right? And I did it sober. Like, I can go anywhere and do anything. You know, some of the things that I've gotten to do as a sober guy, I've had a really good time, right? I usually like to start with this, but I did, my business has thrived, right? Like, I have a great business, great clients. I'm super blessed. I try to bring a high degree of humility and customer service to selling insurance. Right? I did get to record my album in Oakland, okay? 4-song demo. It's on Spotify. You know, I'm moving to Sacramento. They have an art scene there that's accessible. So I'm going to start trying to play some gigs out there. I got to train as a river guide, right? So I always wanted to do that in my 20s, and I just never got around to it. Like, because I was like just trying to survive or get a degree or be a chef or be a business person or whatever. You know, it just never got around to it. And then, you know, in 2014, I got to, like, I need to go on vacation because that's what people do when they work hard, they get to go on vacation. And so I didn't have the wherewithal to plan a big trip. I'm like, well, the American River, it's right there, 7-day guide training, $1,000, 7 days on the river, I was like the shittiest river guide trainee ever. I sucked so hard. I threw so many people into the banks. They got spiders on them. It didn't matter. I did a second guide training in 2015. I got to do my album. I studied jazz and bluegrass here at the jazz school in Freight Salvage. I've been to Mexico 2 times sober, Panama, Costa Rica. My program it's kind of aggressive, right? Like, I missed the part in my share about getting diagnosed with ADD, right? I thought I had depression, okay? Turns out untreated ADD turns into depression because, like, if you don't have the tools to treat, too much information overload, you're not very successful at work. And plus you add drugs on that, very typical, it's chaos. So after the mania, I got 2 diagnoses. One guy said I had bipolar. The second, I said I want a second opinion. Let's not put me on lithium right away after everything I just took. I got another guy in San Francisco. He said, you're ADD. You should never do drugs or alcohol again. And I listened to him and I found the program. And so, today I take my ADD meds and, I work a rigorous program. Like, I wake up and I do, right now, I just did the steps again, actually in Al-Anon. Turns out I'm a raging codependent. And I have 25 active character defects that just manifested, as a relationship that I was in for 3 years with a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous combusted in April. I got to walk through that sober, right? And go to like places like the Salvation Army and say, hey, I was in love with this girl and I'm completely heartbroken and I don't have to drink about it. I kind of like want to, I feel like more pain than I've ever felt, right? Isn't that April, right? It was April and May, really. Whew. But, I'm not interested in numbing it down with drugs because I know it's not going to work. It's just going to make it worse. So yeah, I'm saying the 7-step prayer for each defect. That's 25 7-step prayers per day, 6 4th-step prayers per day in the morning, followed by 10 minutes of meditation every day. I sponsor one guy right now. I'm looking for more in Sacramento. I do the same ritual at night. I'm doing a daily 10th step. A daily 10th step. That's something I kind of missed in between 2014 and 2018. A daily 10th step. I'm going to talk a little bit about this love relationship since I have 10 minutes. So, something happened in 2015. I stopped taking my ADD meds because, first of all, it's technically methamphetamine. I never had any problem with meth or cocaine. Like, I don't like ADD drugs. Like, they do not work for me. Like, I don't want to take it. It's not like weed where I want more. It's like, ugh. I don't like it. I don't want to take it. That's how I know it's not a problem. But I stopped taking it because an acupuncturist told me I shouldn't be taking it. I listened to her instead of my doctor. And then I was at a fish show in Oregon, and I met this really cool girl, had a really cool tattoo and was sober. And, I just fell in love so hard in true Leo dramatic fashion. Just off the deep end, in love. I surrendered my will and my life to this person completely, right? I replaced this beautiful higher power that I had found, in years 1, 2, and 3 of sobriety with a hot girl. I did that, There's like the sunlight of the spirit, and it's shining on me, and it's like I have a beautiful higher power. My higher power is Mother Nature. Like the river has such wisdom. It like does this whole dance, and there's so much river wisdom. I'm a hippie. No, it's a Humboldt. Give me a break. So I basically this thing that I would go to get my serenity, this higher power that I had built this relationship with, that gave me a business and a life and a body. I have all my limbs. I surrendered that thing to a woman, because I don't know how to do certain things. And, it didn't work too good. I mean, it worked okay, but it was kind of miserable for me, really. And, I went through a big heartbreak in sobriety in April. And, and then I bought a house, and now I'm moving. And this is you guys are this is my goodbye party to the Bay Area right now. Welcome. Thank you. I'm grateful to you guys because I'm a kind of gentle, bye, I'm back, kind of I don't want a big to do because I still have a business here. I got friends here. I'm part of a home group, the Men's Single Topic. I'm the secretary right now. I've had a lot of people substituting for me. Well, I've been trying to buy a house. So, life is weird. I love Alcoholics Anonymous so much. I'm so grateful to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I think it's the best thing that has ever happened to me. And I need it way more than it needs me. I need a daily disciplined program to stay sober. And, to be in gratitude because, it's so easy just to let fear, right, get in the way between me and my higher power. Those defects, they come up and they obscure that sunlight that wants to shine on me and say, hey, dude, there's trees, there's sky, there's fog, there's all this beautiful, wonderful people. We have an amazing fellowship here internationally. And all these defects, vanity, lust, or really let's be honest, low self-esteem, right? That's the big one, right? Low self-esteem. You let that shit get out of hand. My cousin killed himself last July, right when me and the girl were about to move in together. And it was terrible. I've had a fucking year, man. The fact that I didn't drink over this last 2 or 3 month period or this last year is a goddamn miracle. I don't know what else to say about it. That I didn't want to drink. I thought about it, for sure, I was oh my God, am I going to do this, But, I had so much, work invested in the program, I knew what to do, right? I called my sponsor, I called my sponsees. I went to the Salvation Army. I talked about it. I met calamity with serenity as best as I could, Now what I do is I pray for my ex-girlfriend, that I do the 4-step prayer for her. I want her, and I genuinely want her to get everything that I want for myself. I want her to be happy. We weren't happy together. I'm super sad about it. Some of you guys have probably seen us together, It's a small fellowship, but, I got a new life. I went to Sacramento and I got plugged in super fast there. And so, this program is amazing. And it's the more I put into it, the more I get out of it. So I go to a lot of meetings. I do at least 4 or 5 meetings a week. I try to share. I try to sponsor. I go to Salvation Army. And I feel so blessed to be sober and to get to do all these wonderful things. 5 years ago, I had no money, right? I was out of money. and now I own a house. Like, how's that possible? That's a miracle. It's insane. Like, most people, sober can't pull that off. And I got to pull that off in my first 6 years. Like, that's it. That's a testament to that this program works, because I busted my frickin' balls in this thing. Like, so hard. Imperfectly, right? Strange mental blank spot, right? I can take a woman and put her in between me and my higher power. I can do it with a drug. I can do it with a job. I can do it with a problem. Anything, right? I can take things and, shield myself from my higher power. That's a decision that I can make. I can rationalize it with all kinds of crazy, alcoholic, denial, mentally unhealthy thinking. But, today I have 2 sponsors keeping their eye on me, and I'll tell you, there's a Fellowship of Al-Anon in Marin County that is doing great stuff. And I'm going to be driving to it from Sacramento because I want what they have, and that's like the next level for me. And also, I got to keep sponsoring guys in AA so I can stay sober. So I'm not going to use all of my last 5 minutes. I'm just going to, graciously thank you guys for hearing me, and I hope I had said something helpful. And I hope you guys have a really good rest of your weekend. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Sobercast is ad-free, and we'd like your help in order to keep it that way. So if you'd like to help us be self-supporting by pledging $1 or $2 a month, visit Sobercast.com and look for the donate links. Thank you very much.